back in the day. 88 car is not out on track. Oh, is it? Actually, so is that the 88 car? Is it Thomas Prenning, who we thought had retired out the race?
No, Alan's right, yes. But we did get told by Fee Miller that the car had been retired.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And Martin was just getting me to say that name, that's why.
So Tommy Branning has maybe been working away with his mechanics who have gone there by scooter with a toolkit in his car, and he's been trying to repair his car to get it going again from the Dunlop chicane, and no assistance, of course, from the mechanics, but they can talk to you and tell you what to do. What they do is they tend to put a long radio lead or a telephone in your car so that you can communicate with them. And Tommy, I think, probably ripped off the rear wheel and just couldn't get the car moving, and somehow he's managed to connect one wheel to the diff and get the thing going.
And it still doesn't have all four wheels on that car, but he's doing enough to get it back to the pits. I apologise for misidentificating it, but Martin was getting me to try and say the other name, trying to set me up, and little Alan in the corners there getting it right and trying to attract my attention. There we go, blaming everybody else but me.
So we should see him come by our window fairly soon then.
And the damage is on our side of the window.
This is a pit stop for is that Hansen in the pits now?
Yeah, and the leader, the So-24 by Graf as well, and Roman Rusinov in the G-Drive car, and that's G-Drive ahead of United Autosports. Now I've blamed everybody out in the commentary box. I'm going to run away and hand over to Martin for a little bit, as it's back to Martin and Alan.
Vitikon Inthropavasak is the name that Ben was avoiding, like the play. Yeah, change in the pits there. The G-Drive car of Roman Rusinov gets ahead of Philip Hansen, and Hansen lost 2 places because he was also jumped by Vincent Capilliere in the So-24 Haas by Graf car. Jackie Chan DC Racing's Will Stevens, deliberately on a different fuel schedule, leads in LMP2. Hello everybody, welcome back to, well, you haven't been anywhere, have you? I've been away, sorry. Just had a cup of tea and a bicky.
So we've just seen Thomas Prenning come by in the Dempsey Proton car. The car was rolling quite quickly. It wasn't missing any wheels. It was, you know, it looked like maybe they gave him a... Are you allowed to do that? If they go and give him a wheel to stick on the car, can he do it? No.
No outside assistance.
So, yeah, I guess he just needed a bit of work done. And, yeah, he's got it back and it's come back fairly quickly. He's in already.
Well, good news for Dempsey Proton. They were out of the race.
46 laps down, though.
Now back in it. Well, yeah, whether the car reappears from the pit lane or not, there was a Viper about 15 or 20 years ago run by FFSA, the French Federation, that had a massive crash in the Porsche curves. And I can't remember who the young French driver was at the time. He's probably no longer a young French driver. He spent probably literally 2 hours with his bare hands ripping off what remained of the front, drove it back to the pits with no steering and only one wheel on the car. And after 2 hours of emotion as he got in, the team manager, with tears in his eyes in the pit lane, just did that hand across the throat thing. Sorry, mate, we can't fix that. And that's the problem. Yeah, Thomas Prenning may have been able to somehow get it fired and get it back in. It may not reappear. There's the Jackie Chan DC Racing team, and here is the car that leads. Joop van Uyten up to 2nd for United Autosport. Roberto Gonzalez cycles through to 3rd for Jota, ahead of Graf's Vincent Capilliere, Roman Rusinov for G-Drive, and Phil Hansen, having lost a couple of spots, but Hansen in real tigering mode. He's in 6th ahead of Duquesne's Konstantin Tereshchenko, Nico Jamin for Panis. Jamin at the end of a 3rd stint, I think. John Falb, also a long stint for Algarve Pro. He's gone back out again. And high class with Mark Patterson in. It's dry, it's light, the track is clean and clear. This is where you get your gentleman drivers in and get their hours done, because, Jamie, they have a minimum number of hours that they must do in the race for the car to be classified, and these are the perfect conditions for a gentleman driver when everything has settled down a little bit and the track couldn't be nicer.
Yeah, nice conditions, very nice, and particularly with the rain forecast, these guys don't want to, the bronzes don't want to drive in the rain, in the dark. Now is the perfect opportunity. It then gives the pros the night to claw their way back and put the car back into contention.
And of course what happens is, if you get a lot of the AM drivers together. So we've got Roberto Lacorte, we've got Mark Patterson, we've got John Falk, we've got Konstantin Tereshenko, we've got Roman Rusinov, Vincent Capillier and Roberto Gonzalez. Then those cars will all be at about the same speed as they would be with their pros on board. Okay, it'll be a lower speed, but the sort of balance of power between them, bizarrely, actually, I was about to say won't change much, but actually is more likely to change when the gentleman drivers are in, because there's more likely to be a difference between them than the, you know, hard-nosed pros.
Well, you just don't want them out, you know. Slicks, dry, rain comes, they're on slicks in the damp. 9 times out of 10 the team are going to box them and put wets on. If it's only a short, sharp shower, the pros would have stayed out on the slicks, and that's a extra 2 stops to go from slicks to wets, back to slicks, and that's where you can lose so much time with the wrong decision based on the driver in the car. So, you know, if they know the forecast is going to be dry for the next 2 or 3 hours, stick them in now, get a couple of hours done, boom, we've done something.
Looking here at our GTE AM battle, 2 Ferraris leading this Aston Martin Ferrari battle. Again, talking about gentleman drivers in the yellow Aston, the 98 car, Paul Dall'Anna, he's the gentleman driver in that car, just being dive-bombed by Matteo Cressoni. Ahead of them, AF Corsa Ferrari, the white car with the red, white and blue on the nose, that's Manu Collar, multiple race winner here at Le Mans. Now, he's definitely not a gentleman driver. And ahead of him, another very famous name, Blomqvist in the Hub Auto car. Tom Blomqvist, son of the Stig Blomqvist. He's been racing for, I guess, 12 or 15 years now, Tom, and relatively recent convert to sports car racing. And he's racing in the Hub Auto Racing Ferrari. The GTE AM class being led by Larry Tenforder, the reigning Porsche Mobil 1 Super Cup champion, who also won the Porsche Carrera Cup race today in vile conditions. He's ahead of Sally Yolick for TF Sport in their Aston Martin. So it's Porsche, Aston Martin, Ferrari with Tom Blomqvist in third. Gustavo Menezes, the fastest man in a non-hybrid car at Le Mans yesterday in the Hyperpole. He comes in the #1 Rebellion, still in third place. And for Rebellion, that's the target. Be in third place, grind out this race, and if something happens to the 2 Toyotas, or one of the 2 Toyotas, and Lord knows that history says nothing is guaranteed at this race, then who knows where they'll be. But in terms of outright pace, even in excellent conditions, Toyota do have the upper hand over Rebellion. Of course, here at Le Mans, uniquely in the World Endurance Championship in this season, I was going to say this year, but it actually started September last year. In this season, uniquely, there is no performance deficit for Toyota. In all the other races, the cars that do best get weight added, have power taken away, and so on. Here, it is the full fat, full blood, ultimate distillation of everything that Toyota know about endurance racers. That's what you're seeing in these TS050s. In the pit lane is the #7 car of our race leader. Kamui Kobayashi took over from Mike Conway, who started the race. Kobayashi and Kaz Nakajima were the 2 drivers who placed their cars first and third for #7 and #8 in the Super Hyperpole yesterday. And little clean in the windscreen, and Jamie, we also saw cleaning inside that front wheel arch, because at the cutaway at the back of the front wheel arch is the driver's rear view mirrors.
Rear view mirrors, they've hidden them away. Wing mirrors, historically very draggy, and they also create dirty airflow, which is going to that rear wing. So they've cleverly mounted them into the ducting from the... No.
Next to cover in T2, and with the setting we are running, we are lowering a little bit the front right temperature, so at the moment it's at least 25.
They're recuperating a lot from the front axle of the energy, which means that they don't put the same load on the front tyres, so they've got a little bit of drop of pressure on the front right tyre. However, to counterbalance that, they need to try to get the car balance into the corner, so they've got a slightly different opening as they're entering into the corner, because remember, they've got a differential on the front and also on the rear of the car, and can be controlled. So from that perspective, there's a heck of a lot of different things going on, because they want to recuperate more energy from the front, which will save a little bit onto the front brakes. You save onto front brakes, you also save on the size of the duct as well to cool those brakes, which then means that you've got a little bit more aero efficiency as well.
And it obviously affects the temperature of the tyres as well if your brakes are running hotter or cooler. So creating a different setting on the diff to explain to the viewers is the diff has a motion of basically the speed at which the inside versus the rear wheel, the outside wheel turns. So the diff can help you to assist you to drag that front of the car round. If it's a bit more freer, you maybe get some bit more turn in the car in the mid corner. So also you can manipulate the balance of the car and how the drivers are reacting in the corners and assist them with the balance of the car in order to go quicker.
You have that in your road cars nowadays. It's basically an assistance that you don't feel, but it actually guides you round the corners, where it will automatically work out with the turning circle of the car and the speeds and everything else, how much it needs to electronically open or close. Similar system in this, but it has to be a case of the driver has also got the capability to work for it. You see there a lovely slow-mo as the 8 comes through and onto the curbs.
And you saw all the debris being thrown up by the car there as it runs over bits of rubber. They haven't got their marker of doom out yet on their spotter's guide. Look, nobody yet has been crossed off. So far, we have written off one car, Dempsey Proton's 88 car of Thomas Preining. That appears to have been sidelined by an alternator issue. And the reason that's a problem is the batteries are tiny and will run out of charge in a heartbeat. So it may be that he had to sit and wait for 2 hours for the battery to get enough oomph to crank over the engine, because, Jamie, it's not like a road car engine. These things are super high pressure and need a lot of power to get them turned over.
Well, and also we have tiny little batteries on race cars, because you got that balance of big powerful engine to turn over, but then we don't want to carry around a big heavy battery like in a road car. So you find that we have these little racing batteries. They're good for starting the car once every hour, but and then they get recharged during that hour, and then they're good to go for another restart. Not so good if Tommy's been sitting there behind the barrier trying to restart and restart and restart and restart the car. The battery then goes flat, but fairly quick for them to change the battery. So I think the problem with them is it took him a long time to get the car back to the pit lane, and then changing the batteries fairly quickly. It's more the damage on the car.
But of course they've also got to change the alternator, otherwise that battery will go flat as well, and when they come into the pit lane next time, damn thing won't start. So
well, and remember as well, he's gone in back left, rear left, and maybe the alternator's on that side of the engine, and something from the suspension or the rear wheel has boom and hit the alternator off or something.
That's
so
classic Ferrari excuse, electrical problem. Yeah, Conrod went through the alternator. So the only car that is currently shown as not a runner or in the pit lane is the Euro International LMP2 car of Eric Maris. And again, it looked like that was less driver error and more something going wrong with the car, because it meandered away from the racing line in the S's and just across the gravel and never returned, even though it got to terra firma. Quite bizarre. Riding on boards down the Mulsanne Straight with the number 91 Porsche, passing the restaurant there on the left-hand side. It's a great view at night, and whistling past comes the Rebellion.
He still cannot get past that Ferrari. No. Seagal, I think, is still at the wheel and still covered by, well, you can see the gaps, half a second or so, and he's been unable to overtake him.
I'm now going to respond to a little message I had a fraction earlier and say that that is the WeatherTech Ferrari as run by Scuderia Corsa. And that may be the one and only time I say that, because it's easier to say WeatherTech Ferrari, and it's also easier for the fans to spot which one you're talking about, because it says WeatherTech on it. And Kyle, I know you're listening, you don't even put WeatherTech Racing by Scuderia Ferrari in your press releases. It's just WeatherTech Racing Team, so there we go. But that car going really strongly in the class with Jeff Seagal at the wheel, ahead of factory driver Richard Lietz and that 91 Porsche. Porsche in the Aston Martin position of last year, this year. And there is the Risi competition team. There's the factory Porsche team. And they're watching the battle between Risi with Olivier Pla in 6th in the GTE Pro class, who's chasing Michael Christensen in the factory Porsche, and then the WeatherTech Ferrari being chased by the GT Porsche car of Richard Lietz. And you see the difference there, Jamie. You've been on both ends of the scale with the super fast cars coming past the GT cars, and it's a huge part of a prototype racer's game, being able to judge the traffic, where it's going, what it's doing, and whether the gap will still be there when you get to the hole.
Yeah, it's, you know, you feel for both, and every driver will say after the quali or the race, you know, I got stitched with traffic and I got traffic in the Porsche. It's part of Le Mans, isn't it? It's part of the race, and the drivers will always complain about the traffic. It's never going to go away. They don't really tend to complain. I never used to complain about the pro drivers in the GT cars, because they are generally pretty good, and you know where they're going to go, you know what they're going to do. But the AM drivers, whether it's LMP2 or GT, regardless of which car you're in, yeah, it's tough, but that is part of the game. It's part of Le Mans, it's part of endurance racing and 24-hour racing. So you know, the trick, I remember Alan was always a very good guy in traffic, and that was particularly more so in the shorter races where you had to take more risks. Here, maybe in the old days you took less risks, but nowadays actually these guys have got to take risks. Okay, now that Toyota are out in front with a 2-minute gap, they're probably fairly, you know, 85–90% in the traffic, not taking a huge risk. But when we had Audi, Porsche, you know, Toyota, Peugeot all here, you could not afford to lose 5 seconds per stint because of traffic.
Well, the other problem is, of course, neither of the Toyotas can afford to lose 5 seconds per stint, otherwise the other car's guaranteed to win. So they still have to take
risk versus reward, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Well, look at, you saw the details on the tyre usage. Don't forget, the 91 car had fresh left side tyres at its last stop. So one side, the right sides have done right side tyres. The left sides have done 21 laps, the right sides have done 9 laps, and that car that Richard Lietz has been in since the start of the race, it's had 2 sets of left side tyres, and it's got a little bit of a tyre advantage over the WeatherTech car. Jeff Seagal at the wheel. You saw in a garage Cooper McNeil, who was once the youngest ever starter at Le Mans, and I think Phil Hansen rather, became the youngest ever starter when he made his first Le Mans start a couple of years ago. Certainly not quite sure which the two was the youngest, but you know, both very, very young indeed at the time. Jimmy Bruni, Richard Lietz rather, closing in behind in the 91 car. And don't forget that Porsche had pole with this car. In Hyperpole, it was the fastest GT car on the track.
And the Porsche caught up there in the middle of the corner and on the brakes, but it catches up on the exit, but then the Ferrari just stretches its legs, and he's got no chance to overtake him. The gap's just widened.
Please on the start finish line, stay on the right, stay on the right.
All right, stay on the line, stay on the line. And I guess they're slightly worried about punctures. Debris on the track near the timing line on the main straight, we are told.
They've obviously seen something, haven't they, over the pit wall?
Yeah, the marshals have seen something. And the team, and you know, in bad weather, in good weather, it's really important that the team gives this driver the information that they have at their disposal about traffic, about whether he needs to fight this car, whether it's staying out longer than him, whether it's coming in at the end of this lap. You know, all of those little bits of information add up to a fuller picture for the driver, other than just, I've got to get by this damn Ferrari. There is more to it. There are layers and there's depth to it. And Alan, the more information you can give your driver, hopefully, the more he's in a good place to do the job that you want.
Yeah, but you've got to make sure that you don't give him information that actually isn't really that relevant. It's got to be completely relevant information, as that was. It was very early in the lap to say, because you've got another 2 minutes before you do get to that particular point. But information is a very good thing, and especially here at Le Mans, because you do have such a long lap, and this will become very important, I think, as you can see that there is going to be a slow zone to recover that piece of debris that's coming up just in a few 15 seconds actually.
Great views down from the helicopter here of just how wooded and forested this area is just outside the city of Le Mans. We're just very slightly to the south of the city and using the public roads to go off to the left there that used to drive right up into the middle of town. There was a hairpin, and still is it's a roundabout now in an area called Pont-Lieu, but that was the furthest part of the track. And in the 1930s, certainly before World War II, cars used to race literally into the centre of town, turn around and come back out.
These guys are going to be very lucky. I think they'll get through this before the slow zone starts. So actually they'll not be penalised because the piece of debris will be taken off by the time they get back round in 3 minutes and 50 seconds.
Yeah.
They've just caught it. In fact, the Porsche slowed up where the Ferrari didn't. Just out of our comms box we looked, and the Porsche slowed up, the Ferrari didn't. It just went straight through.
That's why Alan loves the window. Great LMP2 battle here. United Autosports lead with Joop van Uytert. This is the Graf racing car, red, white and blue, of Vincent Capelier, and behind Roman Rusinov and Phil Hansen. And Rusinov goes by the 33 car, which is now a lap down Mark Patterson in the high-class racing entry. Mark Patterson, 68 years old, not the oldest driver in the field, and indeed the oldest driver in the field is not making his first race start even today at Le Mans. There is the slow zone board.
Oh no, they got him.
That's where the debris was. So which of...
That's a cheese wedge. Oh, and the Ferrari has collected it.
Yeah, that's what's known as a modesty panel on the back of the bodywork.
Also houses the rear lights of the car, so they will absolutely have to come and change that.
So which of the two G-Drive cars was that, and who did he hit?
It
was that one of the Cool Racing cars, or was that the Nielsen car?
The G-Drive, I think, was a 26, because the 16 is it's only on very short stints.
And I think that was the Nielsen car of Tony Wells that he ran into the back of. So it's the Nielsen car that will have lost that modesty panel, and that is a legal requirement. There's the marshal working to pick up the debris, and he's going to have to pick up the big bits. And unfortunately, it's the tiny little shards of carbon that remain like tacks thrown out by Dick Dastardly in the track, and that's what punches the tyres as much as the big lumps. Well, we'll wait to see who comes into the pits. Richard Bradley is in the pits in the number 28 IDEC Sport car. That's the red rebuilt IDEC Sport car. And that is currently in 20th place in LMP2, ahead of Senior Tech Alpine Elf, car number 36, and Racing Team Netherlands, car number 29.
And into the pits comes Joop van Uytert in the lead LMP2 car, as we see the LMP2s threading through the back end. Spinner there just at the exit of karting.
That's the Graf car, Vincent Capelier, he's in the gravel.
And he's going to get stuck out of that. I'm not sure if he'll be able to get out because the right rear's in as well.
One wheel on terra firma. And the other one is, that's going to be tough, isn't it?
It's the angle, I think, that's going to be the problem there. I think that car is going to have to get pulled out, which will mean that the pit stops for everybody in LMP2. They're all diving into the pits now. So we've got the Jota second place. United Autosports as well, both cars.
Well, listen, if United need a fuel stop now, almost everybody else does as well, because that 32 car's not on a different strategy. You see, he's trying to find reverse. No, he's, yes, he is. Go on.
He's going to make it if he keeps going.
Yeah, but you said that Joop van Uytert, the leader, he wasn't. He's only done 7 laps, and he came into the pit. So that was very opportunistic, looking at this particular situation.
Well, we've got 2 slow zones, haven't we? So it's a good time to do it.
Yeah, yellow at Marshall's post 33, which was there in the Porsche curves, and a slow zone across the pit lane. So the Marshals recovering that debris. 32 gets pulled back and pushed forward, and off he goes. That is Joop van Uytert, stays at the wheel.
Wasn't a very quick stop there because of that, though, considering that he was the first one into the pits to take advantage. United were very sharp in that one.
Look how long the fuel takes compared to everything else. It must feel like forever. When you come in, you're averaging 165 miles an hour around the lap, and then you come in and you sit and stew in your race suit for 15, 20, 30 seconds. Come on, come on. But, of course, cars coming past not in the pits are going as slowly as the cars moving in the pits, so you lose much less time. I can't believe that was the Graf car going past, wasn't it? I can't believe he didn't go into the pits. Surely Vincent Capilliere has not gone into the pits. Roman Rusanov stayed out in the G-Drive car. He is our race leader in LMP2. The number 8 Toyota came into the pits as well. Now that's very interesting. Was it due a stop?
Sorry?
Was the number 8
number 8
Toyota
Toyota done 11 laps,
right?
Whereas number 7 had only done 4.
Okay, so he needed the stop. Roman Rusanov leads. Jean-Eric Verne spent an hour and 46 minutes in the car. Rusanov now firmly ensconced in and kind of a half a stint. Well, no, he didn't stop, did he? So in his second stint. Jackie Chan DC Racing's number 37 with Ho Pin-tung at the wheel is 22 seconds behind and in second place. And that car off schedule with everybody else, deliberately so, to make sure that they had an empty pit lane when they stopped. And then coming out of the pits, Jota, United's 32 car, Duquesne's number 30, United's 22. The Graf Racing car went past, but our LMP2 leader passing our AM class battle. That's the AMR car of Paul Dalla Lana. And not sure who he was going by. This is our GT Pro Class leader, Maxime Martin, in the 97 Aston Martin. And he leads the two Ferraris by 6 seconds and 13 seconds. So the two Ferraris about 6.5 seconds apart, second and third. And those are the factory-entered AF Corsa cars. 51, Alessandro Pierre Guidi. 71, Sam Bird. Welcome back. And the slow zone procedure almost completed at the exit of the chicane. See the Inter-Europol car, the bright yellow car of René Binder on an outlap, completing his first lap as this GTE battle continues down the straight. The WeatherTech Ferrari in between the two factory Porsches. 92 Lawrence Vantor right into the heart of the action, fresh out of the pit lane. His first lap in the race at Le Mans. He's got Jeff Segal right behind and Richard Lietz in the red and white Porsche behind him. So this is 6th, 7th and 8th in GTE Pro. And again, Jeff Segal all over the back of Lawrence Vantor, trying to send it down at Mulsanne corner. Vantor goes in deep, but holds it all together. And here comes Richard Lietz. Lawrence Vantor, black and white nose. Richard Lietz, red and white nose on the two factory Porsches. In fact, red and white colours all the way through. And that white WeatherTech Ferrari in the middle of this battle, but not for long, because the 92 car is due to come in at the end of this lap with a full service and a driver change. Michael Christensen, in fact, that's a lap old. Michael Christensen handed over to Lawrence Vantor. That's already happened, hasn't it? So if they've been in now, expect the 91 car. I know they're off strategy.
No, the 91 car's done 12 laps. It's got 2 more to go. Yeah, so this lap and then 1 more.
Little off strategy. So Porsche team, Lawrence Vantor with a win, and WeatherTech with a win as well.
As we said earlier about the amateur drivers in the cars at the moment in GT Am, we've got Jolik in the TF Sport and Paul Dalla Lana in the Aston Martin racing car. These guys getting their first laps and still in touch, both of them, with the leader from Team Project One.
Here is our battle for second and third in GTE Pro. The first of those two red, white and green Ferraris is Alessandro Pierre Guidi in the 51 car. 2 years ago, the world champions. And behind, Sam Bird, who had to give up his full-time seat in the AF Corsa Ferrari factory squad because of too many clashes, at least it seemed, this season with World Endurance and Formula E. Of Of course, in the end, none of them came to pass, and he is back at Le Mans with his old squad. Davide Rigon, his regular co-driver, joined by Sam Bird and the regular inhabitant of that car, Miguel Molina, in the World Endurance Championship.
Not a bad addition to have in your car, Sam Bird.
No, exactly right. Exactly right. A year of big changes for him, because after the season finale, the 6 races in Berlin, he said goodbye to the Virgin team with which he has competed in every single race of 6 years of Formula E up until now, and moved to Jaguar. So a very different 2021 in prospect, or end of 2020, 2021 for the next season of Formula E for Sam Bird. Meanwhile, back to the old game, trying to get by Alessandro Pierre Guidi. Aston Martin's Maxime Martin, just a couple of seconds up the road. There he is in the yellow Aston. Yellow, green, green, yellow, yellow, one or the other. Aston Martin first and fourth. And our 2 Ferraris in this neck-and-neck battle. Of course, you get back to the old adage, if you don't beat your own teammate, you're not going to win the race.
Frankie, an old adages, and we're only 3.5 hours in.
You know, a truism is a truism. So, Sam Bird and Alessandro Pierre Guidi. It was Alessandro Pierre Guidi at Spa who did more than 4 hours of 6 hours in the car. We began to think that he was super glued in.
One's in the pits.
That's Birdie.
Yep, he's came in, popped into the pits for Sam Bird. That is a 13-lap stint, so this will end up 14. But Maxime Martin hasn't quite had the pace, though, of Alex Lynn since he jumped in. Not sure if it's a tyre-related issue, or not issue, but certainly the strategy. But ultimately, he's been a little bit off, especially in this particular stint. That's allowed the 2 Ferraris to sort of catch back up again. I think, though, that these 3 cars are definitely a little bit above the rest right now.
The last car in GTE Pro, which is our 91 Porsche, is due a stop. Richard Leitz will hand it over to Fred Makovici, who will make his first laps of Le Mans this year. In the race, that is, obviously. We might actually see if we can, as it quietens down a little, whoa, beg your pardon, quietens down a little in the pit lane, get Haley to pop down to Dempsey Proton and find out what the story is with Thomas Preining in the 88 car. Meanwhile, Jota Sports' Roberto Gonzalez with Will Owen of United Autosports behind him.
Owen had an opportunity there just to hold back a little bit and try and get the momentum through the corner. As soon as he saw that Gonzalez got checked up, but he checked up himself behind it and lost a little bit of that potential advantage.
Pulls out behind the AF Corsa Ferrari of Manu Collar that runs 4th in the GTE AM class. On board with Roberto Gonzalez, the Mexican driver with Will Owen down the inside. Owen sends it deep, holds it all together, makes the apex. That's a good move by Will Owen. He's done a lot of kilometres in this LMP2 United Autosports car in European Le Mans Series racing since we broke out of lockdown. On the other hand, Roberto Gonzalez only raced at Spa, didn't he? So Will Owen's done 3 European Le Mans Series weekends as well.
Yeah, Gonzalez has had a little bit less, but Jamie, that was one thing. Did you see where Will, he braked right on the middle and the car started bouncing around? I always found it a little bit better, and admittedly it's, you know, we're a few years ago, to actually be one side or other side of the white line. If you braked on that white line with the middle of the car, it bounced and you hit the belly of the car that was bouncing, which then had a tendency to lock up an inside front.
Yeah, the road, public road, of course, is it's got a slight crest in the middle on the white line, and even just going down the straight towards the end, you don't want to be in the middle.
No, you certainly don't, but you know that's a legal regulation in France, that there is a certain slope from the centre to the outside, and hence one of the reasons when they resurfaced all the Mulsanne straight, there was a limit that they could actually do to make it flat as a normal racing circuit would be, but that's part of Le Mans.
Okay, no, sit down, Roberto. Just let him go. He's on fresh rubber. He's on fresh rubber. And try and catch up with Hope in.
very good work there by the engineer. You know, he's just been overtaken. It's got into the car. It's a big race. Just a little bit of camming. Nice work. Right. This is what the strategy is. We're absolutely on it. Don't get concerned about that.
Yeah, and he was talking about his teammate, of course, Ho Pin Tung, in the Jackie Chan car, which is also run by Jota, some 18 seconds up the road. And he's just trying to get him to go back into a rhythm. Sometimes it can be.
But Jackie, Ho Pin's actually been in the car a little bit longer as well, though.
Fred Makovic looked like he wasn't quite going to make it round the Porsche curves there as he leaves the pits for the first time in the 91 Porsche. Porsche curves, that is a Dunlop chicane, you idiot. So Fred Mako starts what will likely be probably a double stint, I should think, in this car.
The lead Aston Martin into the pit lane, Maxime Martin at the wheel. So Pierre Guidi in the Ferrari takes the lead.
Yeah, but if I look at theoreticals, best, everything else, this car is about a second quicker than those Porsches. At the moment, the Aston's theoretical best lap time, the actual best lap time, the rolling average over the 10 best laps, everything suggests that the Astons have got a bit of an advantage over those Porsches, and it's borne out by the pure performance on track.
Harry Tincknell takes over from Maxime Martin, so double stint to start from Alex Lynn, double stint to follow from Maxime Martin, and Tinkerbell will be in for a couple as well. Alessandro Pierre Guidi.
I think he'll be in for a good old fight, never mind a couple. It's going to be a bit of a scrap with these Ferraris. Yeah, and that's exactly what you want. You don't want to come to Le Mans and either be, like Aston Martin were last year, hanging out the back, or miles away. Well, okay, so you do want to be miles away from everyone, I suppose, but you want to have won a race that was worth winning, I think. Yeah, and so we've got a driver change coming up. As you can see, just getting...
Well, let's hear a little bit more from Dempsey Proton about the 88 car and Thomas Preining. Haley Edmonds is down there. Haley, they had a couple of hours stopped to the side of the track, and we hear it might have been an alternator issue. Is there any more news?
Well, I've just been told that it definitely won't be restarting. They've been working hard on the car, hopefully trying to get it back up in form, but unfortunately it won't be the case for the minute anyway.
All right, so we've ridden it off once and it came back like Lazarus. Thank you, Haley, and we're rising it off potentially again. I could hear sort of the sounds of clunking and thumping, so it's possible maybe some more work is going on, but at the moment that car is in the garage, and of our 59 starters, only that car and the number 11 LMP2 from Euro International seem to have fallen by the wayside. There's a great historic view of the Goodyear Zeppelin. You can see the company formed by Graf Zeppelin in 1902, their name on the back there of this aerial platform. And just in there, I'm sure I can see him, Graham Goodwin, waving warmly to us.
In that bright orange shirt.
Yeah, using both of his fingers. Duncan Cameron, Aaron Scott and Matt Griffin's Spirit of Race Ferrari, a regular in European Le Mans Series racing over a number of years. That is in the pit lane. Aaron Scott brought it in. And Duncan Cameron drove it earlier on. A stop 2 for Risi Competizione. And let's hear from the 95 Aston Martin team. So very straightforward. Marco Sorensen, box, driver change. And Nicky Thiem started the race for them, didn't he? So
Westy in next.
Yeah, that would be right. Richard Westbrook from the Danish city of Bath.
You saw on board there with Marco Sorensen, you saw the net wrapped around his seat, and it bolts into the roll cage system of the car, the chassis of the car at the front. He'll unbolt the left-hand side to do the driver change. That safety net, of course, was introduced after Alan Simonson's death in an Aston Martin at this race when I was his teammate in 2013, very sadly. And the safety net is to not only protect the driver from going left or right in a side impact, but also to stop the seat from moving, which is actually the case of what happened with Alan.
Hoping Tung, our LMP2 leader, cycled back to the top again in the Jackie Chan DC racing car, ahead of Will Owen for United and Roberto Gonzalez for Jota. So Goodyear shod cars now first and third. Certainly no question mark whatsoever over their performance or longevity. Alessandro Pierre Guidi has been persuaded to give the car to someone else in the 51 Ferrari. Marco Sorensen in the pits as well. Handing over to Richard Westbrook, and Augusto Farfus will take over the 98 AM class Aston from Paul Dalla Lana.
You notice, you see, so there's the net down, and again, now we have a driver change helper. You see him bolting in the thing. Westy's just adjusting his seat belts over his hands device there and tightening them up.
And of course that's always been the case, particularly for prototypes. You always saw a guy diving in from the passenger side because the drivers can't see the belt buckle, never mind do it up. So, I mean, these things are so tight. If you did your own seatbelt up that tight, you would not be able to breathe in fully. So that's, you know, it's often not possible for a driver to do that up himself.
No, and it used to be the driver getting out used to help you, but I think Alan you used to help your drivers, no?
No, not very often. He got out and walked away.
Back in the R8 days, I remember you boys jumping in the passenger.
Yeah, we used to have the driver that would actually, getting out, would belt the driver getting in.
Yeah.
Initially, I could actually do it, but then with the introduction of the hands device, you couldn't look down. You had a restriction on your head movement, hence the reason that we had to go in that route. And then ultimately, with a closed cockpit car, there was no way. You had to have someone coming in the far side.
Yeah, so all the cars now have a windscreen in this race, and used to be open cockpits, no longer the case. So it was a lot easier back then. Now with these small doors and very confined cockpits, it's a bit more difficult. So you see the tyre guys here waiting. Look at them on the white line. Boom, straight onto it.
Poised and ready to pounce. And the thing is, you know, this is a really long race for the mechanics as well. They don't get a rest. They have to be in the garage waiting just in case a car comes in, even a lap after it has just left. And any second they lose in the tyre stop is really hard to make up. Paul Dalla Lana got out of the 98 AMR AM car, and in got Augusto Farfus, who last raced at Le Mans in a BMW M8 GTE. Harry Tincknell in the 97 Aston. Sam Bird leads for AF Corsa in the 71 Ferrari. So he stopped and Tincknell stopped at roughly the same time. So the Ferrari has got in front, thanks perhaps not to having a driver change. There is Birdie and there is Harry behind. 71 and 97, and in between them, here comes the Cool Racing LMP2 car, and that is Antonin Borga flashing the headlights.
Yeah, the Aston Martin 97 was 4 seconds longer, 5 seconds longer in the pits. That's why he's dropped down to second place behind Sam Bird.
Yeah, and he's 4 seconds behind, so 5 seconds in the pits has cost them a place and the lead. And if this was in the final hour, who knows whether he'd be able to get it back.
Final hour?
If it was.
Well,
final 10 minutes.
We've got 20 hours to go.
I know, but that time lost in the pit lane has cost them the lead of the race.
Very correct.
He's in a Ferrari sandwich now, isn't he? So be interesting to see how Tinkerbell gets on now, and should, based on the pace of the Aston so far in this race, he should be able to claw his way back up onto the tail of Sam Bird.
I would say though, Jamie, it was definitely an Aston run at the beginning. The Ferraris kind of have came into it in the in the third and fourth stints with the averages and performance, and I certainly don't think it's an easy one. As we get a replay of the 95 stalling as he came out the pits, saw the lights going and the car moving forward, and it's just being too quick with a very, very small clutch, which means that it's easy to drop it and stall.
That was the 95 though. That was Westbrook.
95, yes, correct.
Yeah. Not
this car.
This car, yeah.
And of course people will think, well, he should have had a few more revs on, drop the clutch and let the wheels spin, make sure he didn't stall it, but you get a drive-through penalty for spinning the wheels in the pit lane. So you have to be very careful not to have any wheel spin and not to stall it. And like you say, the clutch is A, tiny, and B, like a light switch. It's either in or out. There is very little slippage.
Say that was a little bit wide there by Harry coming through the last part of karting. No, he wants to take the advantage out of the new tyres, but...
yeah, I think his manager will frown on that, really. You know,
If he gets caught, yes.
first lap out of the pits, and he's already rubbing debris all over those brand new tyres. That's not how he take lead. There's Alessandro Pierre Guidi.
Oh, doesn't look happy.
In his absolutely atypical, very quiet Italian, non-demonstrative manner.
I wish with Duncan Vincent would have sent him down in the pit lane last year. Duncan went to interview him and got a complete earful as if he was the team manager.
Well, you know, it's only fair. I think Dunk should get an earful. Didn't send any tunnocks, I notice. So let's just recap. I hear from Hayley in the pit lane. Hayley, hey, you're on your way. Okay, she's on her way. Excellent.
Yeah, she's on her way to have a chat with Pierre Guidi just to find out, you know, what was wrong with the pasta.
I think she's on her way to get some. Yeah, there was clearly something there in the pit stop that he was
not happy about.
No, I'm not sure what the Italian for effing and jeffing is, but he was definitely doing it, wasn't he? AF Corse lead with Sam Bird, and of course Daniel Serra in the 51 car down to 3rd place. So what we've had is a total turnaround of the top 3, because the 51 Ferrari was ahead of the 71 Ferrari, but the 51's now down to 3rd. Sam Bird and the 51 Ferrari were both behind the 97 Aston Martin. The 97 Aston's down to 2nd. So Sam Bird, who brought his car in 3rd, is now the leader in GT Pro. Did you get that? If you missed all that, then go to FIAWEC.com and click on live timing, and you've got the live timing screens that will tell you where everybody is in the race, and then you can sort of follow along yourselves. Just briefly to recap, you've just seen the LMP1 overall leaderboard. Toyota number 7 ahead of Toyota number 8, Rebellion number 1 and number 3. Then in LMP2, Jackie Chan DC Racing lead from United's number 32 car, and Jota in 3rd, with Duquesne, United's 22, and G-Drive completing the top 6. In our ding-dong AF Corsa versus AMR battle, it is the 71 Ferrari ahead of the 97 Aston, and there is the 51 Ferrari that is in 3rd place. Daniel Serra having his first run in the car during the race. AMR's Richard Westbrook not too far behind in 4th place.
Daniel Serra is approximately a 1.5 seconds quicker on this lap so far through the 1st and 2nd sector than Harry Ticknell. So Daniel pushing, very experienced driver, obviously won the race before with Aston Martin and drafted into this car last year, wasn't it?
Yep. Daniel Serra in 3rd place. How's he competing against Sam Bird in the other Ferrari? Meanwhile, in the pit lane is the Rebellion number 1. Number 3 has just left. Roman Duma at the wheel of that car. Roma in his 19th Le Mans start. Gustavo Menezes stays in.
Had a bit of damage to the front of the car. If you look round the centre part of the nose, just right at the front on both sides, it looks like it's had a small assault.
I think it's the vinyl.
Yeah, but that's not very good aerodynamically then if you've got vinyl that's unwrapping.
It's either that or rubber muck, but either way,
it's not good.
That is right by those air intakes. Toyota in, and this is car number 7, Kamui Kobayashi, the race leader. Car started by Mike Conway, who drove the first couple of hours, so a quad stint for him. Kamui has taken over. Jose Maria Lopez, feet up, fag in hand, not fag in hand obviously, just waiting for his turn in the car. And a hurried Dempsey Proton change in front of him. That is Vitikon Ithra-Pavasak handing over the 99 car. Not sure who's going to take over from him, but it'll be an easier name for Ben Constanduras to pronounce in about an hour's time when he's back on headset. Change of lead. Oh, never mind. He's got to learn how to pronounce these names. He was struggling with Vincent Capilliere, calling him Vincent. This from a man who lives in the French Alps. Change of lead. Brendan Hartley cycles through ahead of the number 7 Toyota of Kamui Kobayashi. There is Kamui. Full tank, same set of tyres. They will change the tyres, I think, halfway through the stint. How many, on your strategy, Alan, how many stints have Toyota done on their tyres? I would assume a double, but I would have thought maybe in these conditions you could triple or quad the tyres, maybe.
Not too bad, the conditions. Cooling down a little bit. Slight cloud cover. No big dark clouds yet.
triple stint is the answer for Toyota. So they're quad stinting the drivers or triple stinting the drivers? So I've asked him another question that's on another page. This is like Test Match Special, where they ask the scorer one question, he gives the answer, and then there's a codicil.
Yeah, but I'm trying to actually do something else. I'm multitasking here.
Yeah, what are you texting Harry to say, stay off the dirty bits?
No, I'm looking at actually Hoping Tongue, which was the question in terms of his performance on the good years, because that's an interesting point for me in the other category, is the relevance there. So on the driver's side, they are double stinting, except Sebastian Buemi, who did 4. So Kobayashi's currently in for his... Sorry, Kamui Kobayashi was in for 2. Brendan Hartley's in for 2, coming to the end of his second. But Buemi did 4 at the beginning.
Sorry, Alan, down in the pit lane, Hayley Edmonds. It's a little busy by you, Hayley. Alessandro Pierre Guidi looked excited, I think is the word. What was going on with the Ferrari team?
Well, I'm currently in the AF course, garage of course, and I went to speak to one of the staff and asked, you know, what the problem is with Alessandro Pierre Guidi, because he did look a bit, you know, animated when he came out of the car, and I was told there was no problem. According to the team, everything's fine.
Hayley, you need to dig deeper.
I think I do. I'll come back to you guys.
Yeah, Duncan says, get in there, Hayley, like a dog with a bone. Worry it until they spit out the truth.
All I can say is, if that is no problem, I wouldn't like to see I've got a problem.
Words out of my mouth. Exactly right. If that's him being calm and no dramas, then God help them, because the arm flapping will go into hyperdrive.
Yeah, but let's be frank about it. It's quite an emotional thing. There's a lot at stake here, but at the same time, it is good to see a driver that's still got that adrenaline when he does get out, pull the helmet off. Admittedly, sometimes maybe not the most constructive, but at the end of the day, it's a good thing to see that he's still pushing. Miguel Molina there, sitting with a cup of tea, I presume.
This is good. Oh, the Ferrari, the AM Ferrari there let Daniel through. So Daniel has reeled him in. And he got a bit of assistance there, because I was just about to say this AM Ferrari is going to hold up the works Ferrari.
Well, Johnny Molam just drifting out of the way as the Aston Martin came by. He just stayed offline a fraction. He has been worried, or he has been warned about worrying the off-track limits, Johnny Molam. So he's had his final warning. When we get notified of a black and white flag, so does the driver in the little RDS system inside the cab. It will show black and white flag to his car, in his car, and it will also say turn 3, turn 7, or wherever it is that he's been pinged for exceeding track limits excessively. So it is a final warning before a drive-through. Meanwhile, battle on for second place, and there is nothing in it. Daniel Serra with a little bit more pace at the moment than the lead Aston Martin, or the leader, the better of the two Aston Martins. Harry Tingle in 97 in second place.
I've got to say, the Astons have dropped off in performance.
Looks that way. The track is coming to the Ferraris, isn't it?
Yes, or alternatively, they're looking at fuel mileages and trying to just keep a little bit of a cap on it. Is the other thing, which we have seen in other WEC races, Jamie. The only thing is that here, as long as they do 14 laps, does it really matter? And that's the thing that surprises me, but it's very, very clear on the performance of both the Aston Martins. They started very well, and slowly as the race has gone on, the Ferraris have increased or at least maintained performance, whereas the Astons so far have not been able to achieve that.
You can see on the 300 there, 296 for the Aston. Of course, the Ferrari is in the tow, so only sort of 3-4 kilometers, and that's all you need, really. Pretty equal. Oh, the Ferrari's on soft tyres.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
So they've already gone on to the soft evening compound, so maybe they can make that live, and the Aston Martin can't. Now, you talked about the crown in the road, and Alan said, you know, there's a mandatory crown angle in French roads. It was always, in the old days, never cross the white line, because that's when cars took off, and even now it does unsettle the car as you go over the crest, because of course the car is leaning from, or being lent from one side to the other by the crown of the road, and it tends to make it meander a little. In the dry, not so bad. In the wet, that's to be avoided if you can.
That's a good old British team.
The Ferrari guys were all like really intense and looking at the screen. The Aston boys are having burgers and chips.
Yeah, they're going, whatevs, 20 hours left to go. We'll get excited in the final hour.
Obviously, the Aston Martin's run by ProDrive. Famous factory that you see on the M40 on the left-hand side going north.
Exactly right, and we'll wait to see as we drive past, or as I drive past on Monday on my way home, whether there is a Union Jack flying at the top of the mast, because that is always a sign of a ProDrive victory, in this case an AMR victory. Ah, Alan didn't know that. Well, that's because he doesn't live in England, in the gloriously sunny West Midlands.
Well, sunny.
Now, I genuinely think the reason that Alessandro Pierre Guidi was gesticulating quite so flappily is that he came into the lead in the pits and his car is now third and chasing second, whereas the Ferrari that was in third is now leading. And between teammates, that's a big deal. Now, what happened in the pit stop, I'm not entirely certain. Alan's strategy laptop will tell him how long the stops were relative to each other, 71 versus 51.
Yeah, but your strategy laptop also tells you right in front of you the 71 was a 1 minute and 8, and the 51 was a 1:29.
So how did they give away 21 seconds? That's what dropped the lead into third place. So the two Ferraris that straddled the Aston have sort of swapped positions, one to the top, one to the bottom of the top three, and the Aston's still stuck in the middle, and through comes the Rebellion number 3 car, just inserting itself in there, Romain Dumas.
Yeah, but it's not a problem when you catch an LMP1 catches a GT Pro car there, because the Ford chicane, actually the GT Pro cars are pretty quick in comparison with the LMP1 cars.
The only problem, of course, is the prototypes stop dead like a brick wall, whereas the GT cars have been on the brakes for sort of 50 meters by that stage and are still scrubbing off speed. So an inexperienced LMP2 driver particularly can nip in front, stand on the anchors, and basically it's just a brick wall for the GT car.
Yeah, nightmare for a GT driver, LMP2 or any LMP driver who comes past you on any straight. You really need to stay on the right-hand side, because the ones that dive in front of us in a GT car and then stand on the anchors, all that happens is we end up running into the back of them, and it ruins their race just as much as ours.
Well, and the problem there is that the GT driver often is completely innocent and just cannot stop because he's already hard on the brakes, and you don't brake gently in these cars. It's 100% or nothing. One car in the pits at the moment, 2 cars in the pits. One is the number 36 Cinetec Alpine Elf. Pierre has just left, and 2 AF Corsa Ferraris, 52 and 54, Alexander West and Thomas Floor, have just gone out. Takeshi Kimura is the last, well, he's not the last running car now actually, because the Dempsey Proton 88 car has left the pits and Thomas Preining is circulating.
Oh, the 2 Works Porsches have got past the WeatherTech. WeatherTech and Risi Ferrari, so they're back into 5th and 6th.
I wonder if they've changed onto the softer evening tyre. I shall send a message and see if we can find out.
So this is Gonzalez, 2nd place currently in LMP2 in the Jota car. Behind him Terashenko in 3rd place. Terashenko in a bit hot there. Willow in the lead at the moment.
Yeah, 18 seconds up the road. Now, remember when it was the 22 United Autosports car that was just driving away from the rest of the field and they were all battling between themselves? At that stage, Jota were down in sort of 8th or 9th, and United's 32 car 5th or 6th. And the Duquesne team came up the order as well. They're now in 2nd with Konstantin Terashenko, who... Did he start the race? I mean,
no.
Has he been in for 4 hours?
No. You can't drive that long. I think there's a limit.
He can drive for 4 hours, any 4 hours in a 6-hour rolling period.
Well,
in which case he's got to come in a minute and 8 seconds.
But I don't think he started it.
No, I'll check in a second. Duquesne 30.
And he's only got a minute to get in, and he's on the Mulsanne.
No, Tristan Gomedy did a triple stint at the beginning.
He did start
4 stints, actually.
Yeah, correct. Hopentung in fourth for Jackie Chan DC Racing, the 37 car that led for the first 2 or 3 hours, barring pit stops. Mikkel Jensen in the 26G drive car. So they've now cycled out Roman Rusinov, and Mikkel Jensen is in. Juju Canal in the 31 Panis Racing car. Vincent Capilliere still in the 39 Graf car. Then Ben Hanley and Timothy Bouret racing for Dragon Speed. They are 9th and 10th in LMP2.